Okay, fingers crossed this will work, and that way I can go back and forth between. So thank you very much. I'm very excited to share what I've been working on together with my, as you said, my fabulous colleagues and students. And I think what most of us sitting here in this audience, hang on, I'm going to turn on my timer so I try not to go over and keep the time here. What most of us sitting here are very aware of is that chemistry labs have a lot going on. So in terms of cognitive load, it's up there and it's buzzing. And anything we can do to try to disentangle that and try to make it simpler and break it down into concepts can only but help the learning that goes on in the labs. And one way of doing that is actually using e-learning resources. So the aim is to enhance the student learning experience. And by reducing the cognitive load, if we can do that, we can hopefully also reduce the associated stress and anxiety that many students feel or maybe staff as well, in the lab. Another thing I'm quite focused on is supporting the transition into higher education and into the first year labs, and actually supporting the transition from labs to labs. So these learning resources can also facilitate and support these transitions. And something else that has come out of this is through judicious use of this, we might be able to support and build a sense of belonging to, as a chemistry student, to a particular lab, to your degree. So altogether, shows that e-learning resources have a role to play. Now, like many of you, this is my sort of introduction into this. Pre-COVID, I was interested with my colleagues in making videos to support skills, techniques, and safety in the lab. So this is to support lab learning. Lockdown slapped us into trying to replace face-to-face labs with online lab resources. So in addition to skills and safety, we had to go and actually try to support the theory, teach the theory behind it, and show what was happening experimentally. And moving out of lockdown into post-lockdown, these skills and resources actually can help the re-entry into the lab learning and support the hybrid learning that we're going into. And we can use it to support students that can't make it into the labs one way or the other. So altogether, these e-learning resources can support and do support students. But it's not just students in the teaching labs. There's an entire playlist of people that have a great value, and those are the demonstrators, the technicians, and the staff. So if we can actually support the students, these resources can also help train and support the other important players in the labs. Okay, so how do you get your hands onto an e-resource? Okay, well, there's several approaches. One of them is you have professional products that have been built for you or can be tailored for you. I think Learning Science is one of those that many of you are familiar with. These do require money. The £3 signs doesn't mean it's super expensive. I just got excited with the pound signs there. And these are valuable resources. But I want to share our do-it-yourself approach, okay? And that as no pound sign or one next to it. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. One should replace the other. I think they exist quite well together because they hit different needs that are required in the lab. And I would say if you're doing the DIY approach and you have the ability to do so, harness the power of your project students. So I'm fortunate, I get to supervise project students with my colleagues, and we are focused on Chem Ed and the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning. And in doing these projects, our projects have to be based on pedagogy. And to start a project, we have to establish the research question. So this is where the cunning plan comes in. So if you can align your research question to something that you need developed in a resource in a lab, you can use the power of these projects to create, trial, and evaluate your lab e-resources. So this is a very nice, I would call it easy, but a nice way of doing the DIY approach. So let's focus on the budget, because most of you, like most of us, don't have a large budget, or if any, to spend. So I was going to call it cheap, and I thought that sounded a little bit bad, low budget, but I like the word frugal that came up in the poster. So a low budget approach. So use what you have at your disposal. Don't go crazy. Use the lab environment that you have. Use the equipment that you have. Use the experiments that you have. Don't go crazy and just lash out on shiny new equipment. Use the software that you have and the hosting platforms that you have. So most of us have access to PowerPoint or ChemDraw or there's a lot of free or low-cost software out there. It might be bundled in with your operating systems like iMovie. There's YouTube. OpenShot, Genially will explore this. And if you have your virtual learning environment, we use Moodle, you might be using something else. That's a great place to host material, and it also has a lot of embedded resources, H5P resources that you can access and use. Now, the hardware is where the money might need to be lashed out a bit. So you will, if you're making videos, you'll need access to a video camera. We have one that was about 250 pounds a few years ago, but nowadays, mobile phones and iPads, the cameras are probably better than our video camera. So you might even have something already in your pocket. But what I would suggest is you access a tripod just to keep that jiggling down when you're making your videos, and you can spend as little or as much as you want on a tripod. Now, lighting is really vital to make a good video. And you can spend as little or as much as you want. My neighbor lent me her SAD lamp, and I hoisted it aloft and angled the light, and that was an approach we used, but now we have access to better lighting. You've noticed I haven't put microphones on here. That's because we do not do our recordings in the lab anymore. We do dubbing because the noise in the background was very hard to get rid of. And of course, you need access to a computer. What do we also need? We need labor. But we're talking about existing labor. So your project students, because they're motivated to do their project, come into play here, and supervisors, we're always working. So why not just use us, right? So what are the benefits of doing a DIY approach? Well, you've got this creativity. You can do what you want, how you want. You can create what you want. And by using your resources, by using your vintage equipment and quirky glassware and showing making these videos in your lab, you're making a very bespoke videos which actually establish your identity, and this helps the students belong and feel like they belong to your lab, to your environment. So this cannot be underrated. And also you get to work with students, and at the end of it you get research outputs out of it. So DIY is I think a very effective way of going. Now I want to show you, the whole point of this is I want to show you two examples of our DIY approaches. And of course, it's always done in student partnership for the project students. And this was based on what we learned in previous years by working with Jarrett Gray. We were working on trying to make skills support videos. And we wanted to have videos, and we wanted to have quizzes that went with them. And we found out it was very important to plan your videos, have them succinct, have subtitling, have labels on there, and have callouts. This worked really, really well from our research. And again, dubbing the videos, not having that background noise. And then our quizzes, we wanted the students to have a safe place to fail. We wanted them to be able to engage, try again, get immediate feedback, and make certain those quizzes are interleaved, so supporting each of the different videos that we had. So these are the principles that we learned from our previous work, and our students from last year, our lockdown year, used these principles, and they pivoted and created labs that we actually used for our teaching last year, using the principles I've just sort of addressed here. Only thing is their content wasn't just skills support and technical support. They had to also teach the chemistry behind it, and they actually had to show with the experiment as it was happening, so students could actually feel they were observing it, and actually we had more commentary to actually explain the changes that were occurring. And the two approaches we have, one was for the Synthesis 2 lab, which is more of a formal approach, which I will show you, and the other one is more of a playful approach for QUANT-I lab. So let's look at what Lewis did for our Synth 2 lab. Now our lab is a second year lab, it's got 160 students, and his approach was more formal, more of what you would expect as a lecturer. Okay, so more of a formal lecture approach. And he split the content into 3 subsections here. So you can see we have, whoops, where's my cursor gone? Introduction and theory, lab techniques, and main experiments. And within those sections, we might have more videos. So there could be 3 or 4 different lab techniques that are contained under there. And for each of those techniques and each of those subcontents, we have an associated Moodle quiz. So this is something you watch and listen. There was embedded resources throughout. And how he made this, and again, this is the start of lockdown, he used PowerPoint. You'll see PowerPoint is appearing on Twitter right now. It can do anything, but he used PowerPoint to create this. And he embedded his ChemDraw explanations in there. Photos were embedded, and he used the PowerPoint to put the labels onto it. The videos that we made of the lab, he then inserted that into another slide on PowerPoint. And then at the final point, he stitched all of those together using OpenShot, which is a free resource, and made that entire PowerPoint into a single video. We then wanted our subtitles, so we slid that over to YouTube, and that provided access to good subtitling, not Zoom subtitling, good subtitling. And then we housed this on our virtual learning environment in a Moodle interactive ebook. So here's our interactive H5P Moodle book. So let's show you what this looks like. Have you seen me swap to a different screen here? Is that a yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Phew, it's working. Oh, hallelujah. Okay, so here we go. We're in Moodle now. These are the 3 H5P books here. I'm going to go into the lab technique book here. And this is us using our VLE to house our content. Okay. And you can see here, we've got navigation here. We've got 2 techniques. We've got vacuum filtration and TLC. And this is what it looks like. You can have text above it. Here is our embedded Moodle or YouTube video, and we have the associated quiz below. Okay, so I'm going to just play you, and hopefully I've set this up so that you can hear the sound, share computer sound. I'm going to play you just a little bit of this video because I want you to see how you can see how he had each slide had a different component on it, and he used the slide to bring in the labeling, and then I'm going to show you by clicking it on and off the ability to have effective subtitling.
Hello and welcome to Synthesis 2 Laboratory Techniques. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at vacuum filtration and how it can be used to wash and dry your product. So to start, we'll have a look at the equipment required to perform a vacuum filtration. We have the filter flask, through which the vacuum pump will be attached, the Buchner funnel, through which the filtration will occur, and the filter paper, which prevents solid from passing through the funnel. So to set up the equipment, first, ensure that the filter flask is firmly clamped.
Okay, so you can see that we are able to do what we wanted to do, have the labels, the callouts, and the subtitles. We could move the subtitles around thanks to YouTube. And then we have the associated quiz. So we have 3 to 5 questions per video, and the quizzes not only were not summative, you could actually make an attempt at it and you get feedback, and then you could try it again and you could keep trying to do it until you get the right answer, or if you wanted to, you could show the solution here. So this was embedded all the way through, and that is just a snapshot of Lewis's approach. Now let me go back to, whoops. Okay, so what we found is the students really, really liked this. They liked being able to see this before a lab. They thought it would be very beneficial before going actually into the lab. But they actually mentioned they would like to be able to visit again after the lab. They thought that would be quite a powerful thing. So they didn't want to just see it once, they wanted to visit it again. Students, as you may well have guessed, said that this was very useful, but they wanted to be able to do hands-on chemistry. And of course, that's what we want as well. But they did say that engaging with this material actually helped them understand their experiment, and that they would feel more confident when they had to attempt the experiment. And actually, 85% of her 99 respondents for this evaluation stated that as a result of performing this, they would feel more confident in engaging with the resources and doing the labs themselves. So I would say that's a fairly successful outcome of that experiment. So the second approach we have is by VALERIO RUZZA, and he was working on pivoting tune experiments for the quantitative 1 lab. Now we have 600 students in this lab. It's the first year lab. And his approach, you'll see, is a little different to this. It's not formal. I would call it, classify it as a playful approach. And what he did is he put all the resources, the theory, the quizzes, the videos into a one-pot resource that you could click your way through. And it was less watching and it was more reading. And he interleaved the Quizlets all the way throughout. So we still had that support. And how did he do this? Well, he did this in a different way. He used an HTML5 resource called Genially. Now, if you're worried about budget, a student license for a year is about £10. So it's very, very reasonable. And everything went into the Genially resource. So you could put labels in there and you could label the photos in there. Sorry, I said labels, I meant photos. Once you made your videos and you dubbed them, we put those dubbed videos into YouTube to generate the subtitles, and then those links then of those videos got put into Genially. The Quizlets, we call them, were generated also within Genially. So it was a one-pot resource that you could click your way through and access all of this information. And we put this onto our Moodle site, our virtual learning environment, and this was housed in a Moodle book. So let me show you what this looks like. So now we are looking at Moodle, and this is a Moodle book. This is different to the interactive book, and our class head has used this Moodle book, and there's several sections where this is Smito Dedra, thank you very much, has inserted all this information, and what she has done is housed this resource under experimental. So this is what Genially looks like, and let's click our way into it. And it launches here, and Valerio has created an index, so you can click through and into these different sections of it. And let's show you here. If we click on this interactive button, it highlights all the interactive features. So that's showing you the interactive features. So we can go into that. We can also work our way sequentially using the keys. So as you can say, there are elements of fun and whimsy through here, but it still delivers the same objectives that we wanted our students to deliver for these online labs. So if we go through here, you will see that the information is not provided in a formal lecture. In this case, it's actually reading it, and there's little bits of fun nuggets to keep the attention of the students. You can put equations in there. You can call people's attention to bits going in. This is all really down to the student creation of this, or your creation. So you can insert your images, and you can actually put labels on the images, these little floating hot points here. Or if you wanted to, we've got other images, and we want to, let's say we want to put more information. It opens up another page, more explanation, more elements of fun embedded into this. And we also have videos, YouTube videos. I'm not showing you an example here. And again, you would have the text, and you'd have the videos, and we also have access to different types of quizzes. So let's look at what this one looks like. We go here, which of these holds a solution? Oh, let's just guess a wrong answer. Oh no, okay. So this is the approach taken, and this actually has quite a few slides, about 55, 60 slides just to create this. I'll move back here. And the student feedback on this were that they actually really liked these bite-sized quizzes that came along, that kept their attention, that kept that interactivity, kept them going as they went through. They liked this approach, they liked laughing, they felt they were more engaged and they learned more. And I think this person actually stated here, it was a combination of reading the videos, the pictures, and the quizzes, and they worked well to help understand the experimental, a better understanding of the experimental procedure. So two completely different approaches, meeting the similar outputs is what we wanted. But because of the students, we have very, very different approaches on how to do this. And the student response was very positive in both behalves. So I'm trying to keep the time here. hopefully I've shown you that lab e-learning resources actually do support students and staff and enhance the student learning experience. And doing it yourself and doing it on a limited budget is achievable. It can be powerful, and the world's your oyster. You can do what you want. It's up to you to make what you want, to fit what you want. And obviously, you can use pedagogy to underpin this, and you can make resources that do contribute to Chem Ed and to SOTL. And I believe that these sorts of things are here to stay. And you'll notice that we really strongly believe in student partnership. The creativity that came into it, we wouldn't have thought of using GIFs and memes. It was brought in, and our students make our resources relatable. It's the market we're trying to hit. They've got the insight into it, so we need to harness that. And really, it's enjoyable and it's very productive to work with our students. So this leads me to my need and my want to thank all of the participants and the contributors and the collaborators here. So our first year and second year synthesis lab, it was Lewis Sim and Jarrett Gray, and our co-supervisor on this was Dr. Kirsty Watts, who's just had a baby, congratulations. And our lab head, Joelle Prunet, helped out with input on this. And the whimsical lab, Valerio RUZZA, he brought his element of fun into it. And of course, I was working with Dr. Smita Jedra, and when you hear the word fun, her name pops up as well. And together, Kirsty, Smita, and I are 3 members of a larger team called CHIRPS here at the University of Glasgow. And Smita and I are also chicks. And I want to, before I say goodbye here, I want to give my sincere thanks to our head of school and our head of teaching, Justin and Harry, because they have supported the members of the Learning, Teaching, and Scholarship Academics to be able to do work like this and to give us this opportunity. And I also wanted to thank Nicole, Dino, and Nikita for this opportunity, and to you for listening.